going to get started, I would really love it. I know you guys like to start comfortable, and I am all about that. But go ahead, and if you can be comfortable being seated, be seated. Let's start this practice just a little more alert than normal. I promise you we will have plenty of time to get into that sleepy dreamland, but for now let's be awake. And just begin to immediately notice if there was any sort of attitude shift of like, oh, I really wanted to lay down and now I have to sit up. It's okay. Let that feeling come. And then notice the effort of having to get back up and sit. You know, if it's more emotional effort for you or physical. But sit comfortably. So if you have bolsters or blankets or pillows, at this point, it might be worth investing in a bolster. You can order on Amazon for $30. If not, you can overstuff a pillowcase or roll big blankets. So whatever you have that gets you sitting comfortably. You can cross at the ankles or the shins. And then begin to stack up nice and tall through the spine. Roll the shoulders up, down, and back. Pull the ears back. And let the pelvis begin to sink heavier and heavier towards the ground. If you feel comfortable, let the eyes close. And there's no way avoiding it. There are some thoughts swirling around in your mind. They can be echoes of conversation. They can be replaying of a scene or scenario that happened recently or in the past. It's hard to know if it's possible for the mind to be truly empty, but chances are right now there's something going on in there. So just notice what it is without judgment, perhaps with even a little extra kindness. And then give it the attention it's asking for. If it's in your mind, it means it wants your attention. So go ahead and look at it. Listen to it. Say, I see you. I hear you. But it's time for my practice now. It's time for an hour for myself to grow, to learn, and to be. To have an hour with no expectations of myself, from others, or from myself. Just to be here. And notice if there's any extra relaxation over the body that happened after you told yourself that. A weight taken off the shoulders. A little more space in the heart to breathe. As you inhale, the ribs can expand maybe a little higher. Even in the back of the heart space, can the back body expand a little bit deeper? Then exhale, pelvis sinks heavier. You are supported. Shoulders get a little softer, a little heavier as well, letting the neck appear longer. Lengthening the back of the neck, so just a slight tuck of the chin. Letting the flat spot on the top of your head lift up towards the sky as if you have a teacup sitting on it. And softening the face. Sometimes you might notice that as you really soften the face and soften the heart space, the corners of the mouth tend to lift naturally. Some inner joy can be reflected in the outer appearance by just a soft smile sometimes. The theming of today's class: action without attention or attachment to results. Just let that kind of swirl around in your mind for a moment now. action without attachment to results. What is your initial opinion, thought, interpretation of that? Sometimes action isn't what we always think it is. In this class, in this practice, we're going to work through how sometimes rest takes effort too. Not just to let the body physically rest, but for the mind to rest as well. And that can be especially true in times like these, when there's a lot more going on. Times are stressful, there's a lot of unknown. We can feel more surges of energies, we feel surges of anxiety, or maybe we feel more drained as we feel more depressive because we're isolated. Either way, it's going to take effort to begin to work through that, to come back to your normal state of being, your true essence. All of our natural, innate state is joy. And everything going on in the world right now is a barrier to that joy. So recognizing that and knowing that it's going to take effort to try and overcome that, but lose the attachment to the result, to the grand finale. I feel joy and enlightenment. And enjoy the work and the effort along the way as we work in that direction. So even if there's no fully letting go in this practice today, there's no full, this is peace, make the attempt and enjoy the attempt along the way. Recognizing that every thought, every feeling you have is true for you in the moment. It deserves honor and validation. But just know that you are not always super easy on yourself. So if you find yourself being critical of your thoughts or anything else going on today, let that go too. Okay? We're going to focus our effort in this practice on letting go. So even sitting here with more alertness, with more attention in the physical body, in the emotional body, where can you start finding a little more ease? Where can you let go? Perhaps the stories, the conversation, the chatter that was swirling around your mind a moment ago, maybe you can let it soften. Imagine a dimmer switch. Just turning the volume down, turning the brightness down. Letting it still be there, but now it's a soft hum in the background. Just a blur behind the mind. And let your full attention come deep inside. Again, finding the heart space, the front and the back. Breathing into that space. Finding a breath pattern that feels really good for you. Breathing in and breathing out. Option to place a hand over the belly and over the heart. Maybe both over the belly, both over the heart. That can help foster a connection to the breath. Maybe you just let the hands be in the lap. And I'd like you now to begin crafting an intention. If you came to your practice, if you came to your mat with one already built, already created and ready, go ahead and stay with that. Clearly, that is what you have been called to today. But if not, I'm going to nudge you, to ask you to let your intention somehow be around letting today, not just your practice, but today, be all about the work, not about the result. Do what you do because you love to do it, not because there's a prize waiting at the end of the road. Thinking of parigraha, non-attachment. Perhaps there's something in your life that you've been holding on to. It can be a relationship, a job, items around the house, opinions and judgments. We all do it. We all hoard these things. But this is a really good time to decide to start letting some of that go. So that was a lot of talking, a lot of listening. Just, again, let that swirl around, let it mix, let it soften, and come back to the physical body. Notice if anywhere in the body feels stiff. And then begin moving through those areas. So if you'd like to change the cross of your legs, you can change the cross of your legs. If you want to come off your bolster or even adjust your bolster so that you are seated in more of a hero's pose type situation, go ahead. And then just begin softly moving through the body. You can sway side to side, notice the spine. You can do some seated cat-cows. Move through the arms. Let your eyes be closed. Again, there's no right, there's no wrong. Move intuitively. Even keeping maybe a little checklist in your mind of all the parts of your body. Making sure each part of the body at some point gets acknowledged. Whether it's just a flick of the fingertips, a drop of the ears, tip of the chin. Saying, I see you, body, I feel you, I'm giving you all of my attention. If you'd like to move into table, this is a good time. You can stretch through the wrists, especially if you work on a computer a lot. A really good time to stretch through the wrists. If you've been doing a lot of online classes, vinyasa style, that's a lot of down dog, a lot of plank. Really good to take some extra time here to stretch through those wrists. So finding your table and then letting your palms come up, the fingertips come back. Rocking side to side and front and back. And you're turning that dial, that dimmer switch, all the way up for awareness in the wrists, in the hands, in the forearms. Really tuning in to the needs, to the sensations. It's almost electric how in tune you are with the body right now. And continue changing the direction of your fingertips, keeping your palms up and down, rocking the weight all the way around, down and back. You can even make the movements a little more dramatic, big circles with the hips. Maybe coming all the way back towards the heels with toes tucked, lifting the knees, stretching the backs of the ankles, all the way up to the calf. Maybe traditional cat-cows. Moving with the breath, not necessarily worrying about whether you are inhaling as you lift your heart and exhaling as you round the spine. You can try both. If you inhale as you round the spine, you're really breathing into the back of the body. So try experiencing that as well. We're using this time again to give the full body some attention so that as we come into our true yin practice, the body feels safe. It feels unattached and ready for change. Take a few more breaths, moving how you need to move. And then we are going to find a child's pose. I'm going to start having you in a more closed-kneed child's pose. So that means big toes towards each other but not stacked. And then knees towards each other. So if this creates some discomfort or some negative feelings in the hip flexors or at the knees, maybe it's hard to come all the way down to the heels, modify. We've got blankets, we've got pillows, hopefully. If not, Get off your mat, run, and go grab some. You can place a blanket here like this. You can place a bolster in front of you like this. The hips absolutely do not need to be back towards the heels. If you can get them towards the heels, let that happen. But it's more about the sensation of the pose, not the shape. So finding your child's pose, either supported with props or unsupported, heavy towards the earth. And as you find yourself in this shape, in this child's pose, what do you think you would describe this shape as if you were describing it to someone? If they said, what does this pose represent? What does it mean? Some people would say, rest. It's a pose of rest. Others would say, well, perhaps submission, bowing down. Others would say trust. Others would say protection. You're guarding the front of your heart, more like a turtle. And again, there's no right or wrong answer, but sometimes it's fun to kind of notice how you interpret things, like a Rorschach test. And whatever your answer was, just smile and let it float away. Coming fully into the pose, deep breath in, feel the back body expand. Exhale, soften. Feeling the torso draped either over props or legs. And since this is yin yoga, we're very aware of our edges. If you feel pain in any of the poses that we take today, I'm going to ask you to come out of it to modify, okay? If there is true pain that you are just having a really hard time with, I'm going to ask that you just lay down, okay? If a pose really isn't for you, it really isn't for you today, and that's okay. And you'll just lay down on your back or your belly until it's time for the next pose. So again, coming back to that theme, action without attachment to results. What would you normally say the goal of this pose is? Or as I said, how would you describe it? Can you find yourself in the shape, softening into the shape without the desire to accomplish anything in it? Can you just enjoy the body being positioned as it is without the promise of comfort? Without the promise or the hope of relaxing? And just being fully present in the moment, breathing, position the way you are. We're halfway through the pose, so if there's any adjustments that you'd like to make, this is a really good time. If you have your head turned in one direction, go ahead and turn it towards the other. Get the wiggles out. You can tap the toes, wiggle the fingers, shift through the hips and the ribs, little shimmies. You can even adjust your props if you want to come off of them or add more support. And then use the breath to resettle, to come back into the effort of just being present. That effort might look like imagining yourself as a third person in the room, or like a second person in the room with you. Just looking at yourself, tracing the lines of your body, listening to the breath. Anything that brings you to the present moment of the pose, letting that be the effort. Sometimes inaction is effort. Being still can be hard. Maybe that's your effort today, by not wiggling, not shifting. We're going to begin to take a side stretch from your child's pose. So if you're pretty propped up, just kind of notice if you either need to move the props with you laterally towards the right as we get a left body side stretch, reaching our hands towards the right. When you're ready, just walking the hands towards the right, letting the hips stay exactly how they are. And then breathing into the left side like it's an accordion, just opening up. When you exhale, it closes a bit. Inhaling as it opens. Exhaling as it closes. I'm going to demonstrate this as well. So if you're more of a visual person, you do need to see it. Hips are down, hands walk over towards the right. And we're not kinking the hose, we're not kinking the right side here. There's still some space because we're reaching forward first and then walking the hands towards the right. Only a few more breaths here before we will walk hands back through center and then over to the left. So go ahead and do this with your own timing as you feel ready. Hands can stretch through center, growing a little bit longer, and then walking the hands over to the left. The fingers can be tented or the palms can be flat. If you are on your support, on your bolster, just moving that with you. And again, we're not here for very long, so really savor the breath and the time that you have here. And then walk the hands back towards center. And we're going to find ourselves either in a Sphinx pose or going straight towards a cobra or a seal type pose, okay? We've had a lot of flexion in the hip flexors, a lot of compression right there, so let's open that up. So the legs come flat on the floor, and you can either use your fingertips to find your position. Your elbows are down, then you rest the forearms down, finding more of a traditional Sphinx pose. You can use support under the rib cage. That way you don't have any weight in the arms. Or you can do both. You can have some support under the rib cage, weight into the fingertips, and then straight arms. More of a seal shape here, but still supported. Lengthen through the back of the neck by tucking the chin. Soften the posterior chain. Let the front of your pelvis, that area where we just had a lot of compression, press down into the floor. You might even want to lift your knees away from the floor, firming through the quads, and it helps get a little extra stretch. Maybe even tuck through the toes and do this. Again, paying attention to your edges, noticing if anything feels a little too intense in the low back. If so, maybe coming off the prop. Maybe lowering the forehead down, and you're allowed to hang into the shoulders here. That just invites in a wood element for the shoulders. Just be careful about too much forward rotation of the shoulders. So try and keep the shoulder heads back, the collarbones broad, but your chest can hang. If even this feels a little too intense for the low back, it is very possible that with your anatomy, with your daily activities, that laying completely pronated, flat on the belly, is going to do the same action that everyone else is getting, being completely propped up. So find the version that works best for you, something that opens up through the front of the pelvis and gives a little bit of sensation, a little bit of edge in the low back. And while you're here, come back to that list that you started to work on. Things that maybe you've been holding on to. Can be goals you've been working towards, but that you've been feeling there's more effort than even hope of reward. Like I said, it could be people, situations, conflict, earthly possessions. There's really no limit to the types of things we can hold on to. And then imagine, if you can, how much space it takes up in your mind, in your heart, in your being. You know, how much time are you thinking about it? Kind of ruminating on it? Maybe how much physical time do you spend working on it? And it's not that working to work without attachment of results. It's working that you don't like doing. You're not enjoying the work. Because the whole point of action without attachment to results is enjoying the action itself. But if you're holding on to some sort of work or job that you're doing and you're not liking the work itself, that's an attachment that you're holding on to. That's space that's being taken up, that something better can't come in and fill because there's no room. So recognize that if you can begin to shift your mind of, I'm holding on to these things because they're what I know, they're what feels safe, even if they're not enjoyable. If you can let go of them, you can make more space. And then the good things, the better things, there's room for them to begin to slide in and fill those spots. So each thing you pluck out and toss away, there's a new little hole, new little chasm waiting for the good thing to come flowing in and fill up. And it doesn't have to be a complete overhaul. It's not me saying, let's get rid of everything negative in your life right now. Maybe just pick one thing today. It can be something really small. And then make a conscious effort to release it. What we hold on to holds us. And in the same respect, in the yin and yang, the balance of it, whatever we love has the power to transform us. So create the space for love. Notice the breath. Where can you soften and deepen the body as you breathe? Can you lengthen your breath cycle, allowing the exhale to be longer than the inhale? Feeling the physical effect on the body right away. Taking 3 more breaths just like this, and then we are going to find a new shape with our bodies. You're going to come up from the belly or from Sphinx, wherever you were, back up into your table. And from here, if you have the need, you can shift the hips around, you can move through some cat-cows, whatever you need. But we're going to begin to find some hip opening here, so you might want some support under the torso again. You have the option to find a wide-kneed child's pose, so big toes towards each other, knees as wide as you can comfortably get. Sink the hips back, bow the heart down, maybe over a prop. Or if you want something a little bit deeper, we're going to find our frog pose. So keeping the hips over the space between the knees, you're going to begin to widen the knees. The heels are going to come and the toes are going to come away from each other to help you widen the knees, okay? Getting them as far down as your first edge tells you is safe. From here, perhaps you come onto forearms, maybe on a bolster. Maybe the chest can come all the way down. Noticing again, paying very careful attention to your edge. On a scale of 1 to 10 of intensity, we're at a 3, maybe a 4. And maybe that's your effort. Maybe right now what would feel really good to you is a deep stretch. You want something gratifying. You want to feel flexible at the end of your yin practice today. But that's not our theme. That's not our goal. Our goal is the work, not the payoff. And trust me, your body's still going to benefit from that level 3, level 4 edge sensation. You don't have to go to a 9 or 10. In fact, if you are constantly stretching at a 9 or a 10 of intensity, your body begins to protect itself, and it will actually not allow you to go as deep over time. You'll find less flexibility as it protects itself. Think of like the tortoise and the hare, easy does it. Go nice and slow into finding these stretches. Your mind is going to realize it's safe. It's going to start allowing the connective tissue to get a little more pliable. There's going to be more lubrication through the fascia, a little more release through the muscle. Whereas if we're just pulling our bodies apart, our bodies are going to know that it needs to protect itself, and it's going to start having that stretch reflex where it hangs on. So don't be the rabbit, don't be the hare in this, trying to push yourself into flexibility. Be the tortoise, nice and slow, nice and gentle, honoring the edges, action without attachment to results. Whether you are in your wide-kneed child's pose or your frog pose. I wanted to share a Yoga Sutra with you. This is Yoga Sutra 2.7. Attachment is seeking continual pleasure, and it will cause pain. Attachment is seeking continual pleasure and will cause pain. Just reflect on that for a moment. Perhaps it can feel applicable to you, maybe not. But a lot of these sutras at some point will be something that we can apply to our lives. So just thinking about it, letting it kind of soak into the mind, and maybe at a different date it'll come to you and it can mean something. Attachment is seeking continual pleasure and will cause pain. Parigraha. Allow yourself to let go of those attachments. If you're feeling like the stretch is pretty intense right now, you're starting to get antsy, wondering how much longer we'll be here, that's a good indication you went a little too far past that edge. Go ahead and come out of it a bit now. If it feels easy and you could just kind of melt here all day, in fact, the first edge that you felt when you got into the shape is kind of dissolved and you just feel comfortable, that's a good indication you are exactly where you were meant to be with this. So just stay there. Feel the breath. Notice the thoughts. Being completely present. Deep breath in. And sigh it out. Let's do lion's breath together. Since no one can see you, there shouldn't be any issues with this. You shouldn't feel too embarrassed. So deep breath in, and on the exhale, you're going to stick your tongue out and you're going to exhale, sigh it out as loud as you can, like you're really trying to fog up a mirror. And if possible, even let your eyes come towards your nose or towards your tongue so you go cross-eyed. Okay, so inhale, exhale. Good. Feels kind of silly, but sometimes it feels really good to be silly. We're going to start coming out of the shape. So however that is for you, if you end up coming back towards table, you can come towards table. If you want to lay down completely prone with legs stretched behind you, arms stretched in front of you like Superman, you can do that. Taking a counter pose and adding in some counter movements that help stir around any of the blocked off energy or prana, anything that those channels that were kinked closed need open and massaged to help move around that energy. Enjoying the work, enjoying the practice. Reminding yourself that you're doing this yin practice because you love your practice. It's okay if you came to the practice with a goal in mind, to find more range of motion, more flexibility, maybe to correct some things going on in the body. That's wonderful, and it truly can happen. But just for today, practice because you love to practice. I think you'll find freedom and maybe a surprise result. Maybe you'll, by letting go of expectation and that desire to achieve, you'll actually achieve. It'll be a pleasant surprise. So now, as you feel ready, I'd like you to come towards a seated position. And we are going to find our shoelace. So this can be a little intense. What we're going to do is we're going to start with half shoelace. And then perhaps, if it works in your body, we'll go to full shoelace. So start with legs both straight out. Can shake through the legs. If you'd like to even take just a very gentle forward fold to open up through the hamstrings, you can. I'm going to say pull the heels in, bend the knees, lift the heart, and then begin to pull the heart towards the legs and then push through the heels, noticing when you feel stretch in the low back all the way through the glutes. And then pause there, okay? Again, this isn't part of our yin practice, our yin pose. This is just helping us move into a different shape. So maybe you let one heel go longer, one leg go longer, kind of that gas pedal stretch. And then as you're ready, left leg stays long. Pull the right heel in. From here, cross the right heel over the left thigh. If you cannot, if this is where you need to stay, then stay here. But if you can cross it over, I'd like you to begin dragging that right heel towards the left hip. Maybe you can let the top of the foot come towards the floor so that the knee can come down as you continue to pull the heel. Eventually attempting to get the right knee stacked over the left here. If there's a live pressure on the left knee, a blanket, a towel, something soft can come under the knee to support a soft bend. Okay? Notice where you feel sensation. If you lean forward a bit, where do you feel the most sensation? If when you're in this half shoelace, you lean forward and all your sensation is in the back of the left leg, that hamstring stretch, that's a good indication that you can move forward towards your full shoelace. So from here, we're going to lean onto our left hip. We're going to bend through the left knee, bringing the left heel towards the right hip now. Then we come back to center. Now, if this is too much, if we're Goldilocks and the first one was too cold and this one's too hot, that's where we find a prop. And you just lift up the hips and sit on the block. Another option is to bring the feet wider apart or to support between the knees. Like this, okay? Lots of options. The great thing about yin yoga is it's not about how it looks. That's why the names have been redone. That's why we don't call them the same names as we do in vinyasa style yoga. It takes away expectation of appearance. So you find the shoelace that works good for you. And then keep your chest lifted. Keep the shoulders rolling down. The shoulder blades behind you are squeezing in towards the spine and gliding down the spine so the collarbones are open. Pull the belly in. Lift through the top of the head. Option to begin to bow the heart forward here. Noticing where the sensation changes. Perhaps that ups that edge. You begin to cross it, come back, sit up tall. Or maybe you begin to just melt forward and round. Again, finding some support if you need it in front of you, however you want to build up the floor to you. there's a variation that you like to do with your arms when you're in your shoelace, you certainly can do that. You can do eagle arms, do left arm over right and lift. You can do reverse prayer hands or just prayer hands at the heart. Maybe there's another expression. Maybe you're just feeling so open and receptive and joyful today. You want to reach the arms up and just absorb everything you can. Imagine that the whole body's smiling as you do that. Letting go, making more room. Whenever I think of a parigraha, I think, parigraha, baby. So maybe saying that to yourself and letting it be just a smile. Smile as you think about it. This was not a long pose. It's already time to come out of it and then go to the other side. So to undo what we've done, lean onto the left hip and extend the left leg. Lean on to the right hip and extend the right leg. Move how you need to move. And then the other side. Hug the left heel in. Cross it over. Pull the heel back. Let the sole of the foot come up as the top of the foot comes down. Knee stacks. Test lean. Notice where sensation is. Is it in the left hip or is it in the back of the right leg? For me, it's the back of the right leg. So I'm going to lean onto my right hip, bend through the knee, stack through the knees. Sit nice and tall, metal element, maybe expression, whatever that means to you. This is me enjoying my practice just because I love to practice. Might look different for you, and that's okay. In fact, that's cool. I love how different we all are. Kind of like cooking soup. If you only put one ingredient in your soup pot, it wouldn't be very good soup. Some of us have to be the onion, the carrot, the celery, the salt, the pepper. Some of us are spicy. That's a fun question. What would you be? What ingredient in our yin soup? You can tell me after class. Good. Again, leaning forward or melting forward if you choose to do so. We're only here a few more breaths. This was a shorter pose. It's pretty intense, so I'm not going to make you linger here much longer. Action without attachment to the results. Can you enjoy this pose without expecting it to do anything for you? It's tough, huh? Three more breaths here. And then we are going to move towards our Shavasana. I'm going to do a guided meditation into Shavasana. So beginning to come out of this, leaning towards the right, straightening through the right leg, leaning towards the left, straightening through the left leg. And then after I do both legs, a lot of times it feels good for me to bring both my heels in and just kind of give myself a hug. Maybe move through the ankles. And then that's a really great natural way to then roll onto the back. So if you did what I did, you can just roll the spine, come all the way down. Maybe you want to rock and roll up and down. You want to go side to side. Again, no right, no wrong. Just go ahead and get on your back. You can windshield wiper through the legs. Just giving yourself a couple minutes to tend to your body. So if you need a hamstring stretch, go ahead and Take a hamstring stretch. And then begin thinking about how you'd like to position yourself using props for Shavasana. What does it look like with all of the props and pillows you have available to you? How can you get really comfortable, really supported? And we're going into our Shavasana with the same mindset, you guys. Can we just enjoy Shavasana without expecting anything from it? Without expecting to truly let go, to truly find peace. Can you just enjoy the time? The minutes that we get to lay down, to breathe and be soft, to be heavy without having heavy mean something negative. In our Shavasana, heavy is a compliment. That is the goal. So begin adjusting your body, adjusting your limbs, getting very comfortable. I'm even going to get very comfortable here. And when you feel ready, let your eyes close. I'd like to read just a little quote before I go through the guided meditation. So if you're already beginning to feel relaxed and you'd like my voice just to fade into the background, go ahead and let that happen. Deepak Chopra said, "Holding on to anything is like holding on to your breath. You will suffocate. The only way to get anything from the physical universe is by letting go of it. Let go, and it will be yours forever." So let's not hold on to our breath. Let's let it flow in and out of the body freely. Noticing what that rhythm, what that pace looks like for you. Can you breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth? And now in your mind's eye, can you see yourself outside in a wide open field with one large tree? And you notice it's warm, but there's a cool breeze. You're trying to orient yourself. So where are you? What time of year is it? What time of day is it? You feel like it's probably towards the evening. The light is pretty golden. And perhaps it's fall because the leaves on this giant tree are all the shades of yellow and orange, red, a few green. Just this kaleidoscope of colors, and it's so beautiful. This tree is huge. It must be so old. Begin to walk through the grass towards the tree. And you place your hand on it. You feel the texture of the bark. And you wonder if you're the only person that's ever touched this tree. You look around and this place looks like no one has ever been here before. It's like this place, this tree was put here just for you. Take a deep breath in, and the air is so crisp, so fresh. You know that there's been no pollution here. You exhale and you feel like your body's been purified. You feel lighter. You feel happier. You decide to look back up at the leaves and you notice that on these leaves there's things written, there's words. But it's hard to see because it's a really big tree and some of those leaves are really tall. They're really high up on these like really giant tall branches. So you focus your eyes, you turn that dimmer switch of focus up. And you're able to start reading some of the words on the leaves. And you notice its attachments. Each leaf is something that you've had a hard time letting go of, that you haven't wanted to find change in, something that's made change hard for you. And it hits you, this tree was made just for you. These are the attachments. And then you think, well, these leaves are all changing color. And as leaves change color in the fall, they often fall from the tree. So maybe some of these attachments are ready. They're ready for me to let go. And just as you think about that, one of the red leaves that you're now looking at, something that you know you're ready to let go of, releases from the tree. And it dances as it falls slowly, twirling through the air down towards the ground. And you feel relief. You've let go. You begin to look at the rest of the leaves, noticing if there's any more beginning to fall. Like a leaf falling from a tree, she let go. There was no effort. There was no struggle. That was written by Sapphire Rose. Allow the tree, allow the field to begin to blur and soften from your mind. Coming back to the physical space that you're in, the physical body. Noticing if there's anything else you'd like to let go of, but not rushing it. It's okay to take time throughout your day to contemplate these things, to find ways to release. Not all change is going to happen in this hour. That's the wonderful thing about the theme. You were able to practice today because you wanted to practice. The results can come later, okay? Welcome some movement to your body. Perhaps a big smile, the inner heart smiling, big stretches through the arms and the legs. And then when you're ready, find yourself moving towards a seated position. Sitting up nice and tall, mirroring how we started our practice together. We started seated, alert, so invite that alertness. Bring your hands to heart center. Softly close the eyes, take a big breath in, and then let go. Thank you guys so much for practicing with me and letting me practice with you. Namaste.